Hey, this is Andrew Brown. We're continuing on with our Elastic Beanstalk application. So in the last video, we made sure that our application was in great working condition. And something that's different that I didn't do before in the last time I did this, these labs, was that we're actually going to utilize Postgres. So I don't have a plan for that, but I'm sure we'll figure it out as we go. The first thing we'll need to do is get the Elastic Beanstalk CLI installed. So I'm going to go over to our README here, if I can find it, under our advanced. Here, I believe it's there. Yep. Okay. And then the idea is that we'll get the instructions out here to install that. So what I'm thinking about here is we'll need to go over to AWS Elastic Beanstalk CLI. If we go here, let's go to the install here using the install scripts. Because it is at the GitHub repo that we should have it over here. So I'm going to grab this URL here so we can easily find. So install ebcli. Paste that in here. And so what we need to do is clone or copy this repo, however we want to do that. I'm going to just go ahead and git clone it. So if we go back over to here and I go, actually it is the same URL, I believe. So if we do git clone this should download it. I don't know, that URL doesn't look right to me. I'm going to go here, local, HTTPS, because you usually would have a .git on the end of it, right? There we go, that looks right to me now. And so the idea is that we can clone this repo locally. So I'll just cd out of this and go into the advanced directory. I'll hit enter. And then the next thing I want to do is run it. So I'm going to type in Python, /AWS Elastic Beanstalk CLI setup. And we have to go to setups or scripts and then Elastic Beanstalk CLI installer. So that's the command that it wants. It doesn't seem to be working. I'm going to go down here. Let's see if anything has changed since then. So we'll go down here. Hold on. Whoops. We'll try this again. There we go. So yeah, whatever it was, it doesn't like what I did before there. And we'll just wait for that to install. So that now is installed. We probably will need to export our path here unless it already works. But normally what you do here is we'll go and I think we're using bash. If you're on a Mac, you might be using ZSH, but really depends on what you're doing here. I believe this is bash because this is bash over here. And so I'll go ahead and just do this. I'll go copy and say paste. And then I'll just I wanted to know if it runs source, and it does. It runs both of those there, so we don't have to refresh for this. But if it doesn't work in these other tabs, then that means we just have to do source, whatever bash here. So let's make sure that's installed. So I'll go ahead and type in EB, and it looks like it's complaining. So I was hoping that we'd see something better here. But before we move on, I'm just going to go ahead and delete the setup directory here. I just want to get rid of that. But if we go down below here, clear, I'll just say EB help, hyphen help. And it's complaining. So what is wrong here? No module named imp. Really? Elastic Beanstalk. What a piece of junk. AWS CLI will install with Python 3.12, but imp will not. If you type in imp into Python 11, you'll get the following. At the time of writing this, Elastic Beanstalk is only supporting 3.8, 3.9, 3.12. Are you suggesting that I'm using a version? Did we have this issue before? Python hyphen version 3.12. Come on, Elastic Beanstalk. Be up to date. It's so frustrating. Okay. So how are we going to switch Python versions? We could probably use like Python env for specific Python version. And I don't do this very often, so I'm not sure. Use the Python command option when creating a virtual environment. It's just to specify the Python executable you want to use. Okay. All right, I gotta ask ChatGPT. How can I use Python version 3.11 using virtual env? Let's see if it can tell me how. make sure it's first installed. Okay. And we do have brew, so we could possibly do it that way. We'll go ahead and hit enter. EB at the time of this video. Okay, so we'll do this. Brew will work here. Like, you might not have this issue, but like if you're using a local machine, you could run into problems here. But we'll go ahead and we'll install Python 3.11. So that would be step one. The question is, do we even have to change anything? So if I go ahead and just type in Python hyphen version here, what do I get? 3.12. So now what we need to do next is create a virtual environment. If you don't already have it installed, install virtual environment. I think it's already installed. Like if I type the word virtual env, it is there. Okay, great. And so then what I can do is this. I'll bring in this other line just in case you're doing this and you don't necessarily have that installed. All right. With the directory where you want to create the virtual environment. Can I do that in the current directory? I'll just go here and type in my env. Would that help? Copy, paste, enter. And it literally creates this directory here. So the one thing I don't know is, like, do I need to have this in the, anyway, we'll have that here for now. That's totally fine. I want to ignore this my env directory, my env, just so that we don't have a big old mess here. But now we have this my env. Okay, great. So we have that. To use the virtual environment, you need to activate it. Activation commands vary depending on your operating system. So here it's suggesting that we do this. Enter. Now if I type in Python -version, what do I get? There we go. Okay, so we'll activate it and then we'll check our Python version. Not too bad. So now the question is, can we run EB? No. So how would we know if it was actually installed in this environment? That's what I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clone this again because I really don't trust it. And I'm going to just run this again. This script cannot be executed in a virtual environment. This sucks. This sucks. I hate you, EB. I hate your team. Install the EB CLI in a virtual environment. Okay, so it says pip install user virtual environment, EB, create a virtual environment. To use a Python executable other than the default, use -p. Okay. Bring this over here. It really shouldn't be this hard. All right. So we created a virtual environment. We already did that. Right? We go up here. We said -p Python 3.11 my environment. My environment, yep. Activate the virtual environment. We did that. And now it's telling us to use this command. Okay. There's always been this command. We could have just done this. We never had to do this. So manual install if you don't have to do the virtual environment. Optional. Okay, now does EB work? All right, so I don't know if this is all messed up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just save this. So save. I'm going to restart this environment because that's the great thing about having Git pod is you could just stop this workspace, start up a new one, and maybe from there we'll have an easier time. But you can see this is not easy anymore. But we'll go over to AWS examples here. We'll open this up in Gitpod. And I just don't know if that previous installation is fighting with that one. So I'll launch this up. I'll be back here in just a moment. All right, so in here, I'm going to go to EB. We'll go to Advanced. We'll go to our README. And I'm going to go down to our section talking about how to do this install. And I'm going to cd into the correct directory, EB, cd, EB, Advanced. Now, it looks like we don't have to place it in the current directory. We could actually put it in our home directory like this, and then it'd be out of the way, which is probably a good idea. So I'm going to do that, and we'll go ahead, and I don't need to do pip install, but I'll have to do brew install first. So I'll do this, and I'll install Python 3.11 again, and we'll just wait for that to install. All right, so that version is installed. We'll go back over to here. I'm going to go ahead and create our new environment, this time, again, in the home directory so that it's less of a mess. And I think that worked. Created the virtual environment, yep. And so we'll activate it. Here, like this. There we go. So now we can see that we're in that environment. I'm going to go ahead and install the AWS CLI, and maybe this time we're going to have a better success with this working. All right, so we'll go ahead and type in EB. And now it's working. Notice I don't even have to export it. Hopefully we won't have to export that. But anyway, so now we have our EB console working here. So we can start getting this provisioned. Okay, so I guess what we'll do is initialize a new application. So there's two ways that we can do this, right? We could go ahead and we could do create. But I think what we'll want to do is do a init, because we'll have more control over what it is that we're doing if we do a init, whereas create will also additionally create it in one go. So I'll type in EB init. And while we're going here, I'll just say like initialize EB. So let's just say EB init. And so we'll choose our region. I want this to be in CA Central 1. So I'm going to choose 15 for CA Central 1. Select an application to use. We are creating a new application. So I'm going to press 4. I'm going to call this Study Sync. It thinks it's called Advanced because of the folder, but this is actually Study Sync. And we'll hit enter. And then we're going to use Node.js. So I'm going to press 6. What platform do you want to run this on? I don't know. I guess 1, maybe the latest will still work here. Cannot set up code commit because there is no source control. Do you want to use code commit? And I'm going to say yes, we'll actually do that. And then here, it's asking if we want to generate out a key pair for the server. I mean, I guess I wasn't expecting to create a key pair. So I'm going to say no, because I don't really want one, but it seems like I have to make one. So I'll go ahead and hit 2. I'll just hit enter, enter, enter. And so it's downloaded one locally on this machine. So if I get rid of this thing, I'm not going to be able to get it in there. But I guess it's nice that they have that. I don't remember that being an option before. One thing I noticed, it didn't ask us like if we wanted to. I think before it would actually ask us like, hey, do you want to do SSH? Oh, it did. Do you want to set up SSH? Okay, I just didn't notice. And here it says, cannot set up code commit because there's no source control set up. Continue without initialization. So previously we would say yes, and then we'd tell it the repo that we'd want. But I guess it's not configured. So, well, we'll go into Beanstalk here because there is a config.yaml file. And this is all of our settings here that we have currently configured. And I really didn't want SSH, but I guess it's fine that we have that there. So I'm just thinking about this, like what we might want to change here. So let me just read it here and let me take a look. So I think normally what we see here is like SC would be something like Git, and this repository would be the name of the repo. So I'm going to go look up the docs here because I'm thinking that's what we want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and go type EB AWS extension maybe, or config, whatever it's called. And so in here, I want to configure it for code commit. So somewhere in here, there should be that option. Where that would be, I don't know. Custom resources, no. We'll say config, YAML, Elastic Beanstalk, code commit. And go down here. It's not really showing us what. Now, there could be a newer command that we could utilize for this. I'm going to go ahead and type in EB here and see all the commands, as there's so many more commands here. We have code source, configures the code source for the EB CLI to use. So I kind of feel like that's a good one to do. So we'll go EB code source here and see what happens. Okay, and so now we can actually set this here. So I'll go down below and then we'll set code source. So EB code source. And we'll choose code commit again. There is no source control setup. I'm thinking that maybe there's no repos and it wants one to select. The wording there is terrible if that is the case, but let's go over and take a look here. And we're in CA Central 1, and I have no repos. So I'm going to make a new one here and call it study sync. And we'll create that. And so now this is set up. I didn't specify whether this is immutable or non-immutable. It's just I created the repo. We'll go over to here. We'll try this again. And we'll try 1. It still says that. What the heck is going on here? Error, cannot set up source control commit. It looks like you have not initialized your git in your directory. Try running the git init. So maybe that's what it wants. Now the thing is that we are in here in the advanced directory, but our app is over here. And I don't want to bring in everything. I just want to bring in what's in the app directory. So I think what I'm going to have to do is start this over. I'm going to go ahead and I'm not sure if it matters. I think what we'll do is we'll just drag this into our app directory here. Move. Is our SQL on the outside of our app? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. That's more for like background stuff. So I've dragged this into here. I'm going to cd into this directory. And I'm just trying to think about this because our app is here, but we will want it in code commit to actually do other stuff with it. So I think what I'll do is I'll go over to code commit because I have code source. And before we do that, we'll just say configure code commit for repo. And I think what we'll just do is in here, we'll do a git init. And names commonly chosen are, I guess I can set the main here, like let's get config main. And so now we have a repo set up here. I'm going to go over here on the left-hand side. This is going to look a bit funny, but we should see 2. And it's not showing that, so I'm going to go ahead and type in git status. And so this should be only the files for here. So let's say git commit -m my init commit. Untracked files. Okay. So I'm trying to think about this, like how we can work with this, because if we're in git pod, we have this repo, but then this one obviously is a bit different. And this is where we're running into trouble. So I think what we should do is use Cloud9 because I think that we're just going to have a much easier time with this. So I'm going to go over here and we'll make a new tab and we'll go over to Cloud9 and we'll work with that because I don't think it's going to be easy to work with a git repo and a git repo here. I thought maybe we could get away with it. So I'm going to do ls-la here. I'm just going to remove the .git directory here and just say .git rf. And I'll go over to Cloud9 and we'll launch a new environment. We'll just call this study sync env. And we will choose a T2 micro. That is totally fine. The platform, Apache Linux 2023 is fine. SSM is fine. We'll go ahead and create that. And we'll wait for this environment to spin up and then we'll work in there, okay? All right, suggesting that we can open this up, though I don't think it's provisioned until you actually open it up. So now we'll wait for this to provision. Also, other thing, let's just make sure we're in CA Central 1 as I want that repo to be there. So now we are here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to this repo because I think that it's going to automatically create it, and so I just don't want to have a conflict if that's the case. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this repo. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to here to our app, and I'm going to go ahead and download this. What I'm going to do here is I think what I will want to do is actually zip this. So I'm going to go back a directory and we'll just say zip. How we zip a directory? Zip a directory, Linux. One day I'll remember this command, but I never seem to do. Zip -r and then the directory. Okay, great. So we'll go over here and just say, whoops. All right. Just say app, and this will be app. And I'll go ahead and do this. I'll paste it in here. I'll hit enter. And now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and download my file here. So download that. Good. And then I'll go over to code commit, or sorry, Cloud9. I'll drag this on in here. Also, I think you can go up here, and there used to be a place where you can download file, upload, edit, upload. There's a specific thing to upload, but I think we can also just drag it on in here. So I'll just drag it on in. Dragging did not work, so I need to find where that upload is. Oh, it's right here. So upload local file. So choose that. Now we have a drag and drop. Whatever. We'll drop it here. And so that will upload that that zip. We now need to unzip that folder. So I think it's just unzip app zip. There we go. Now our app is there. Unzip directory. Okay. Which is fine. I'll just delete this file here. I don't want this in my way. Or I'll just delete the delete this file permanently. So coming back over to here in Cloud9, we already actually have our configuration, but we'll have to get the AWS EBCLI installed again. I'm thinking that brew is installed, and so I'm going to just go, well, actually, first off, is it already installed? EB. It's not. So we'll go ahead and we'll grab this line here, and we'll see if brew just works here. If it does, that's awesome. And it does. Great. And so we'll install the EBCLI tool here. It is now installed. And so what I want to do is go ahead and attempt this code source again. Well, before we do that, we have to initialize a repo. So I'm going to go ahead into our app directory here. Normally when you work in these projects, you want these to be in the root, but I don't think it really matters. I'm going to go ahead and type in git init. And here again, it's complaining about the default branch. I'm going to go ahead and just paste it as such and say main. I'll say git branch to see what branch I'm on. And git commit -m. We can also create the branch, git branch -m main, in case it wants that. And we'll just do git add all, git commit -m, my app init. Okay, so now, well, it still needs some of these things set, which is kind of annoying, but we'll go ahead and copy this. I'll paste this in. This will be Andrew Brown. You put this to be what your name and stuff is, not mine. And I'll go ahead and grab this. Whoops. Copy, paste, email, and I'll say andrew@exampro.co. The font size here is kind of driving me crazy, so I'm going to go ahead and see if I can increase that really quickly. I think they used to, on the welcome page, they used to have a setting here to increase it. Maybe not. We'll go to more settings. And you think it'd be like the first thing they'd uplift is like, how do you change those settings? And it's somewhere in here. I used to know exactly where it was. Not anymore. It is user settings. No, user settings. Where the heck have they put this? Terminal? There we go. That's better. And I'm not sure where the editor is, but tough luck. I'm just going to have the terminal larger. That's what we're mostly working with here. So now let's go ahead and type in EB code source. And we'll do code commit. And so now we'll name it study sync. And so it says here, you must have at least one commit to create a new branch. So I'll just hit enter. Okay, maybe we need git status here. Git log. We do have one here, so what's the problem? It should create one then. 1. We'll choose 1 here. Yes, enter. The default branch is main. We'll give it a moment here. After waiting a little while there, it's created the main branch and code commit should be ready. If we go over to here to our code commit here and give this a refresh, we can now see that we have it over here. And so I guess we'll be mostly working here. If you want to, you could take this and work in github.dev. I'm just going to leave it open because I don't care about the cost here. Updates here. All right, so I'll go back over to here and we now have that set up. So that's generally the init part, but I guess the next thing would be to actually create it, but we might need to configure some things first off. So let me just think about what we need to configure next, okay? All right, so in the previous videos, we ended up creating a configuration file, and so to set the ports, because that's something we're going to need to do, is that when we launch up this app, it has to run on a port. Now, it does default to 3000, but we want to be very explicit in terms of what it is utilizing here. So I think we'll do that here today. I'm not seeing the EB directory. Is it actually there? And it is. It's just hidden. So I'd like to see the hidden file. So I'll just click on that. And so now we can get to the Elastic Beanstalk. And so we need to create in here a new folder called EB extensions. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And we'll go down below and just type in make dir. I'll type it over here first, and then we'll copy it over. Okay, so make config var for EB extensions. So that'll be mkdir, and that will be .eb extensions. And then we'll want to make a new file there. So we'll just say touch 001 envar.config. So those extensions, EB, yeah, I looked wrong, N. I'm dyslexic, so if I read each letter, then eventually I can see it. So I'll go ahead and copy this. I'll go back over to this environment, and we'll go ahead and create that in our app directory. So now we have that hidden folder here. And then we'll need this file here. So we'll go ahead and grab that one as well and paste that in as such. And now we should have this file. And we're going to have to define some things in here. So we'll want to have option settings. The font is way too small even for me. So I'm going to go figure out how to make that larger. If we can find the settings here, wherever it is, preferences. They should have it like as the top option. If we go under user interface, it is probably, should be in here. General user interface. Is it this? Terminal, no. Output, no. Code editor, probably under code editor here. Yep, here we go. Still a little bit small. There we go. So we have option settings. And we'll do AWS Elastic Beanstalk application environment. And so now we can set envars. This is how we set envars. And so we'll say 8081. And we can look this up in the docs too. I'm just not going to pull it up. Another thing we'll want to set is node and tell it to be in production, as this is a specific thing to node, is that you always want to set that. And so this means that our app should start on port 8081. So that is the next thing. Another thing we're going to need is a proc file. So proc file is pretty common when we want to say what kind of processes we want to run. So if we just look up like proc file here. And I think this was specifically something that, yeah, Heroku came up with. And it was just a way of declaring what things you want to utilize. But now it's become kind of a standard, especially in JavaScript apps. And so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and create our own proc file. So I'll say, we'll go down below here and just say touch proc file. And then we'll go into our proc file over here. And we'll say web node index.js. And so that will tell it to launch that up. So that's one thing. Another thing that we'll have to set, and this is different from how I used to do it because this is different, but we'll actually need to set a database URL. So that will be another setting that we'll have to set. I'm not sure if we would want to set it in here, but we'll have to set it somewhere at some point, but we don't have a database yet. So that's going to be a separate step. So what we'll do is just say git add all. There's source control over here. So if we go over here, we should be able to see it. We'll just say configure for configure proc and env settings. And we'll go ahead and, I'm not used to using it this way, so I'm not even sure how you, oh, there we go, commit, there we go. This should already be set. I'll do down here, so we'll just say get push, because we actually already set those, I believe. There we go. No, wait, get status. Git add all, git commit -m, proc file, and env settings. I'll just get this out of the way here. We'll go back to this tab. And so now that stuff has been pushed. So the next thing would be to actually create our environment. So what we'll do, I believe the command would be, we'll do eb create. And so now what really matters is what kind that we want to specify. If we do not specify anything, it will automatically create a load balancer, but we want this to be the most cost effective as possible. And so I'm going to give it the flag single. And that what that means is it's just going to launch up an EC2 instance, and it's not going to back it with a load balancer. So here it's going to ask us some options. I want this to be prod, so I'm going to call this, I'll just call this prod to make our lives easy here. And then they want a prefix here, so we can just say study sync prod, like that. Would you like to enable fleet? No. Nice offering though. And so we're going to have to see what happens here. And so this is going to go ahead and deploy. Now our application is not going to initially work because we do not have an RDS instance attached. So that's something that we're going to have to figure out. But we're going to watch this and notice that this is going to tell us somewhere in here, it should tell us the Elastic IP address, because it should generate one out and we should be able to grab one. But I think we have to wait for this to proceed. So we'll just watch this here for more info to be presented, okay? So our instance has failed to launch. I was expecting to get an Elastic IP back here. That's totally fine because there could be an issue that we're having here. So it says the instance profile associated with the environment does not exist. Did we actually associate one? I don't remember us configuring one. So if we go back over into our config.yaml, let's take a look at what we have here. And I mean, there's no instance profile set here. So maybe something should be set here, and that's our issue. But why didn't we have one before when we created? Like, why didn't it just already configure that for us? I'm not exactly sure as to why. So yeah, the instance profile associated with the environment does not exist. Weird. Okay, so what we'll do, and I know, like when I did this previously, I did this the exact same way, and it was null, and it worked totally fine. But that was years ago, and so maybe they've changed the way it works. But we'll go ahead and take a look up instance profile for Elastic Beanstalk because I don't know what it wants. Does it want the ARN? Does it just want the name? It's not really telling us what. So if we go here, instance profile is an IAM role that is applied to the EC2 instance that you are launching. And so here's a bunch of options that it's suggesting. And I guess it does matter what we're doing. And we are doing a web tier. So I'm going to go see if that already exists. We'll go over to IAM. And we'll go over to roles. And we'll go over here. I'm trying to see if this already exists. Maybe the policy exists. So the policy exists, but there's no role for it. So what I'm going to go do is go ahead and make a new role. We'll say EC2 because that's what we're doing here. And yeah, I don't think it'd be Elastic Beanstalk, right? Beanstalk. I mean, Beanstalk shows up here. No. I think it's EC2 because that's what it's spinning up underneath, right? So that's what it would have to be. And so we'll go next. And I'm going to go place this one in here and we'll choose that. We'll take a look at what it has here. And so we have a bunch of options. That looks good. I'm going to go ahead and call this AWS Elastic Beanstalk role. And we'll create that. And we'll go back over to here. I'm going to assume that what it wants, I don't know if this is the case, but I think that what it wants is us to just put the name in here. Because they didn't really tell us. Oh, sorry, we got to be over here. Yeah, over here. And so in here, I'm going to swap this out for that. I'm going to just hope that that works. We're going to have to add it. So let's say git add all, git commit add instance profile. And we'll do git push. And we'll attempt this again. The other thing that I expect this to fail on is that if it tries to do health checks against our application, well, I don't know. Like, our app should still render out a index.html page, but there will be 500 errors because the database is not there. So I think we'll be fine. But let's go ahead and we'll attempt this again. And we'll say yes. Oh, you know what? I'm going to just stop that. I wanted to be called prod. So say prod. And we'll say study. I don't want to create a second environment. So that makes me think that the other environment's here still. So I'm going to go back over to Elastic Beanstalk. If you have a failed environment, like on the initial deploy, I'm pretty sure you have to tear it down. You can't just keep using it, which is really annoying. So we'll go here, and it looks like it's been terminated. But it's saying prod 2. I mean, if that's what it wants to do, that's fine. So let's say prod. And we'll say prod 2. We'll just listen to what it says. I'll say no for that there. And now we'll see what happens. So maybe this time it'll have the correct instance profile and be able to set up the EC2 instance, okay? All right, so it looks like we still have an issue here, and it says instance profile does not exist. Well, you don't make it easy here, Elastic Beanstalk, because you don't tell me enough information. So an instance profile IAM role that is applied to the EC2 instance that is launched when creating it to retrieve. Elastic Beanstalk provides a set of managed policies. You attach these policies to the instance profile that you create when you launch. You attach these policies to the instance profile that you create when you launch the environment. In the environment for the first time, if your web app needs it. Okay, that's fine, but how do I do this programmatically? This, again, used to never be this hard. But I go down below here, and it is using the trust policy EC2, so that was one thing that I wasn't sure about, but clearly they're talking about the EC2 instance. But what we're not seeing here is how do we configure it in the configuration file. So I'm going to go look up EB extensions, EB, and let's see if we can find an actual example here. So over here, what am I looking for? I'm looking for how to configure the instance profile. Options name, instance profile. So what does it need to be? I'm going to ask ChatGPT and ask it what it's supposed to be. So we'll go over here because maybe you can sift the internet. What am I supposed to set for the instance profile for EB? Is it an ARN? Because it doesn't tell us, right? And I was complaining on Twitter and other places being like, hey, AWS, really update your docs. And they're like, what's wrong with their docs? Their docs are great. And the answer is they just have gaps everywhere like this, and it's frustrating. So I want to see if it tries to take a guess in terms of what it is. I just wish it would just show me the example. Okay, so I'm just going to ignore it. I'm just going to go ahead and set it as the ARN. So I'm going to go over to IAM again. And we'll go over to our rules. And I'm going to search for Beanstalk, I guess. And so we have this one right here. I'm going to grab this ARN. I'm going to go back over to here to our code over here. And I guess I'll just replace it with this. Now, I thought maybe it would just take the name because if you look down below here, this is just repo. But I'm going to try anyway because I don't know what else to do here. So we'll try this again. And we'll just choose prod here. And prod 3, I guess. We'll say no. And we'll see if that works, okay? And by the way, ChatGPT doesn't think it's the ARN. It just thinks it's that, but I'm not sure what else to try here. So we will see what happens, and maybe it will fail, okay? Also, while we're waiting here, we can go take a look and see if it's actually getting pushed to the code commits. So what I'm going to do is just make another tab here, and we'll take a look here. And we'll go over to here, and we'll go into study sync. We'll go to EB extensions, and we'll just verify. Well, it's not here, it's the config that we want, right? Beanstalk here, sorry. We'll go to config. And in here, now it has the yarn. But the other thing is that, you know, there is a role that we create, but then there's also the instance profile. So the question is, maybe we actually have to create an instance profile, and we have to use the CLI to do that, now that I'm thinking about it. So let's go back over to the instructions here, as I was very impatient about trying to follow them because I was really annoyed. But we'll go back and back to here. And so it says create a role. I mean, it doesn't say anything here about this having to be an instance profile. Just role, create role, entity type, AWS EC2. I don't know. I feel like you just provide the role there. You wouldn't have to do anything else. But at least we verified that everything was correct over there. But I guess we'll find out while this is running here, okay? Now, my other thought in the back of my head is maybe we have to create an instance profile manually. So if we go over to IAM, there actually is a command called instance profile. And so that makes me think that we have to do this. Because here we would provide, we create the instance profile and we attach the name. And I'm pretty sure we did this manually at some point as well. So I'm actually going to try this. I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to go ahead and go over to our README. This is just in our Git pod repo. Just say create IAM profile. Because there's nowhere in the interface where you can do it in the web. So you'd have to do it this way. Let's say study sync instance profile. You can do this in Cloud9 or you can do it somewhere else. I already have this hooked up to my account, so I can go ahead and do this. We'll hit enter. And then I know the next thing I have to do is actually attach it. So I'll go back here to IAM here. Profile. Get instance profile. There should be like a way to attach a role to it. Add role to instance profile. Here it is. So we'll go down below here. We'll copy this. I'll go back over to here. And so now it's expecting the name. So I'm going to go back over to our, because that one's going to fail. We already know that failed. That's fine. And I'm going to go back over to IAM. And we'll go over to roles. But even the instructions that AWS provided, they didn't give you the CLI commands to do it, which was silly. But we'll go and type in Beanstalk. And so this is the role that we want. I'm going to go ahead and grab that here. I'm going to go back over to my Gitpod account here. I'll paste this in. Oh, sorry. I'll paste this in here. And then this will be study sync profile here. Like that. And so if I do this, I should be able to attach that role. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and grab study sync instance profile, and we'll go back over to Cloud9. I'm going to replace this again. And I think this is what we need to do. So we'll GitHub, git commit -m fix instance profile. And we'll say git push. And I'll go ahead and hit up. I'm going to say prod. I'll just be prod 4, just because I think the other ones might still be existing. Maybe saying prod 2 because someone else has prod right now. I'll hit no. And hopefully this time it will work, okay? All right, so, well, here's a question. No, this is CA Central 1, so that's something I was wondering here. But now we're getting the same error. Using Elastic Beanstalk, the instance profile associated with environment does not exist. Are you sure about that? Because I definitely have created it. If we go back over to here, we can see that we have it. It's not specifying whether it's the ARN or not, but I assume that we're just supposed to provide its name as such. So this is very, very frustrating. Let me figure it out, okay? Well, hold on. It's saying AWS Elastic Beanstalk EC2 role associated with this environment does not exist, making me think that it's expecting this very specific role. So let me go back over here for a second. Well, we never attached that. We attached this one. So I'm not sure why that's coming up here. Let me go figure it out, okay? Just digging into this, it says, earlier Elastic Beanstalk used to create a default EC2 instance profile named AWS Elastic Beanstalk EC2 role, For the first time, an AWS account, create an environment. However, recent AWS security guidelines don't allow AWS service to create this role. Please check the detailed answer here. Now, does that mean I'm just going to have to create that role? Because it seems to be looking for that despite me setting something else here. So it says, go here, do that. So what they're suggesting is to literally create that to be the same here, but they're not saying that we have to create the instance profile. They're just saying that we have to create a role called that, which is really silly to me. But I guess we'll go do that, even though I don't feel like we should have to do that. We'll go ahead and create a new role. We'll choose EC2 here, and we'll go over to here. We'll hit next. We'll choose the Beanstalk web tier here down below. And I'll go next, and I'll call it this. But what confuses me is that I have one set in there in the instance profile. We've configured it here, like with an explicit one, but it's not taking it. I can go back and change this to null. And I'm just going to stop this because I know it's not going to work. And we'll go git m add or reset instance profile. And we'll say git status. Did I actually add it? Oh, sorry, git add, git commit, update instance profile, git push. And we'll go back over to, well, we've pushed that, so I guess we know that environment's going to fail, so I'm going to just go ahead and just do this again and say create single. I'm going to say prod 6. No. And we'll let that deploy. While that's going there, I'm going to go over to Elastic Beanstalk. And we have prod here, so I'm assuming that the last one was terminated and this is the new one. So I'm hoping that this time it works. An environment already exists with that name, that's fine. We'll say prod 2, because we know the other one's going to fail, so that's totally fine. It's prod 2, prod 5, which makes no sense whatsoever, but nothing I can do about that. And I'm hoping that this one might proceed forward. All right, looks like we are successful here as we now have an Elastic IP address, so our instance is launching. Now, whether our app is working is a different story here, and whether it's accessible is another consideration. We'd have to go over and take a look at the EC2 instance to see what the security group would allow. I'm not sure if by default, if it's already open on the ports or what we want it to be on. So here we have prod and prod 2. I'm not sure if it ever spun down the old one. I'm gonna give this a refresh here. And they're both in warning. This one I don't want. Because that's our old one that is not here. So I'm going to go ahead and terminate this one because this one isn't going to work. I know for certain it's not going to work. So enter the name of the environment. This one's prod. Terminate. And hopefully that one will shut down so we don't have to see two EC2 instances and be confused about it. But prod 2 is the current one that we're utilizing. Oh, this is our Cloud9 environment, so I'll ignore that. So if we go over to our security groups I want to see, and we have port 80 open. And so the idea is that if we've set port 8081, it should automatically switch the port over to the port that we need. So there's something installed in the server, I'm not sure what it is, Nginx or something else, that is telling whatever to be served on port 80. So I'm assuming with that Elastic IP address, we should be able to see something. Now, we're not going to have a working app because we don't have RDS set up. Let's go ahead and take a look here. And we'll just give it a moment. Now, this doesn't have HTTPS, so we'll just type in HTTP. And that might resolve our problem here. And I don't see anything. So let me just give me a second here to think. I mean, that's all it should be. Let's try this again, refresh. And no. So it is running. Prod 2 is running. And it is open on 000. And it's running on port 80, right? And we told the app that it would start on 8081, which is totally fine. But we don't see anything here. Interesting. Now, again, when I did this prior, everything worked perfectly fine. So again, there's probably something that is different than the last time that I used Elastic Beanstalk. So what I'm thinking here is, I mean, I'm not sure if I cancel this, if the events will stop. I don't think it would kill the app. Waiting for these two instances to launch. This may take a few minutes. So it is launched. But yeah, our app doesn't appear to be working. So we can get into that instance. So I'm thinking now that we have an instance profile as attached to it. I wouldn't mind using SSM to get into it. So what I'm going to do is go over to that IAM role that we created, which is that EC2 one there. Roles, EC2. And in here, we didn't have it attached here. I don't know if it has permissions for it. But I'm going to go ahead and add permissions. I'm going to attach a policy. And this one's going to be the SSM manage role. Because that's how I prefer to get into this instance. But the question, can I get into that instance without restarting it? Because I think we'd have to restart this. I'm going to go ahead and attempt to connect here and see if it works. And it does not. So, yeah, I have to decide what I want to do here. What are we going to do here? I think what I'll do is I'll just tear down this environment. So we'll go over to Elastic Beanstalk. Because if we could get into the server, then we could figure out what the problem is. And I think the reason why it's not working is because there's no RDS instance, but without any kind of logging or anything, we're not going to know. And is this other one shutting down? Yeah, that other one's gone. Maybe we go here and take a look at the logs. It says, environment has transitioned to pending to warning, initialized production. There are no instances unable to assume the role, verify that the role exists or is correctly configured. But we have created that role. But this one says AWS Elastic Beanstalk service role. So I'm going to go over to here and make a new tab. And we'll go over to IAM. We'll go to roles. And I want to go ahead and find this here. And we have it here. It says Elastic Beanstalk service role, service role. So it is here. It exists. It has stuff there. There are no instances unable to assume the role. Verify the role exists as properly configured. Okay. Well, I mean, again, I'm not sure if that's our problem, but I'm going to go ahead and just copy this. Instead of using the default role. So maybe we can look at this one and change some of the things, because I might have an older one. I don't know about you, but I guess we could go ahead and just create a new one here. But let's go take a look at this service role here. And I'm noticing that this one has 3. It has enhanced health. Okay. It has this one here. Which doesn't exist. Great. The service role gives Elastic Beanstalk permission. You can read about it over here. Let's go over to service role here. It has these 2. All right. I was hoping we'd get more information. Let's go over to logs. We'll request logs. I hate how the request logs works. Absolute junk. I hate this service. Let's go ahead and tear down this environment. We're not getting anywhere with this one. I'm going to refresh this here. Can I click into this? How do I terminate it? There's like no options to terminate. It says it's launching our environment. So it looks like it still hasn't finished launching. But we confirmed that the service rule had the correct things in it. We'll go over to health. And so I think maybe this one's not working because, again, we don't have RDS hooked up. And I would suspect that if this tried to run, it wouldn't necessarily work because there's no RDS instance. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to ignore that. I'm going to assume that it's going to eventually fail. And I want us to provision an RDS instance. So I'm going to go back to Gitpod here. And we're going to need an RDS instance. So if we go down over to RDS section, we have a template and a deploy script. And so I'm going to go ahead and copy these two here. And I'm going to go back over to our advanced here. I'm just going to call this folder RDS. And we'll go ahead and paste this in here. And I want to launch this into the same VPC. So I'm not sure where this one is running. So if we go over to our environment here and I go into this one, on the left-hand side, maybe we go to configuration. All I want to know is if it's going into the default VPC. I guess the way we would know that is if we went over to EC2 here and we go over to instances and we take a look at our prod2 environment and we go and find out its networking. We'll see our VPC here is this one. Is this a new one or is this the default one? If there's only one, then it's the default, so we are in good shape. That means that we can use the default one. So what I'll do is I'll go back over to Gitpod here. And what I want to see is whether this is set up for our stuff here. So I'm looking for the VPC here, and it looks like we supply whatever we want here. So I'm guessing in here, this is where I specify it, and it looks like it's using the same one. And then this one is expecting a security group to be placed into it. But again, I'm not sure if that's our problem, but I would think that if we didn't have a connection, we would run into an issue. One way we could actually test that is we could just temporarily rip out the code that produces the those JSON calls, and then we'd have less problems, right? Because I think that's our issue, but I don't understand because that would only get called in a subsequent call, and the initial call is just serving up files, and so that one shouldn't cause our issue here. So yeah, you can see how difficult it is to debug this, but I mean, we have to get it working, so I guess we'll just keep on it here. So, and again, I cannot terminate this. This is so stupid. Cannot terminate Elastic Beanstalk environment warning. So dumb. I hate Elastic Beanstalk so much. Try this. I was suggested by item support. You need to go to CloudFormation and retry the deletion of the stack. Oh, right, because it is a provisioning CloudFormation. I mean, I was thinking about that, but I wasn't sure if we could do it from there. And we'll go over to here. And so here it is. It's never going to finish. So we'll hit delete here. Okay, and so we'll try to force it to delete that way. And so what I'm thinking is like, it's like a chicken and egg thing where it's like, I need my RDS instance to exist first, but my RDS instance needs to know what what security group it is. But that means I need to define the security group before we set it up. So I'm going to go here just for a second, and I just want to take a look at the security group. And the ports is that it's open on port 80 everywhere. That's the only thing that I need it to do. So what we'll go do is go back over to Cloud9, and I want to see if there's a configuration for the security group. And it's interesting it doesn't say Git here, because we know that it is Git. But I'm not sure if we could configure the security group prior. So I'm going to go look and say global EB settings over here. And so now we have like the full list. I'm going to grab this just so I don't have to look for it later. And I'm going to go back over to Cloud9 here. And I'm just going to put a comment here. And that way, if we ever need to find this later on, we can find that. So what I'm looking for is the security group. So I'm going to type the word group here. So maybe security, SG. And I guess the question, is it provisioning an auto-scaling group? I guess it would. Even for a single one, I don't see why it wouldn't. So configure the environment's auto-scaling group. But that's not what I want. I mean, there's an option for a launch configuration. But if we're tearing down the CloudFormation stack, I'm not going to be sure what's in here. So I'm going to go quickly in here, and I want to see what there is. And it is. It's using a launch configuration, which is an older type of thing that AWS doesn't want you to use anymore. But I guess Elastic Beanstalk's so darn old that they don't even bother changing that. So this is where we'd have to probably change our settings. Okay, so it says configure the Elastic, et cetera, here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this line, if it'll let me. I don't want the link. I want the frickin' thing here. Right click. Come on, let me copy it. I can't even get the A on that. So we'll go back over to here. And I mean, these are globals. And I want to go back here, and I'm not exactly sure how we're supposed to set this, because general options, we'll go up here. Before the environment creates. During creation. Because I'm thinking this is probably an EB extensions is what we're creating here, right? After creation. All right, so what I'll do, I'm just guessing here, but I'm going to go back here. And I don't think we set this in the global settings. What we'll do is we'll go here and make a new file. So in, I'm going to just say touch EB extensions, and this will be ASG launch config. And I'll launch config, because it's configuration, and we'll do that. And so I think that we'll cut this out here. Cut. And I'll go over here. What a junk service. AWS. Like, it's great if you want to add more stuff, but don't break the apps that you already have. It's so frustrating. So I'll go here, option settings, I guess. And we'll indent this here. And just so you know, like, I've had like Elastic Beanstalk content done for weeks, and I've just been dreading doing these labs because I already knew how painful this was going to be. So we have that. We'll have to go back over to our configuration, which I actually grabbed the line from here. So it's really over here we want this. We'll cut this out here, and I'll go back over to here. And this is actually not the launch configuration one, but it gets us to the general settings here, at least. And so I'll close this out here, and this out here, and this out here. I'm just trying to figure out where we are. So if we go over to general options, launch configuration, we have a bunch of options here. And what I want to change, not the instance profile, we'll leave that alone. It's weird because we have those global settings, but it didn't pick up what we had. And what I want to change here is the security groups. So here it is. We have security groups. So that's the default is Elastic Beanstalk default. I mean, if that's the name of it, that's fine, but I don't know what the name of it is. So I'm going to go over to here to Cloud9, and I'm going to indent. I'm going to do this. I'm going to assume that it wants a list of those values. I'm going to give it 2 spaces. This is YAML. It doesn't want 4 spaces. We want 2 spaces. And we'll go back over to here. List the security groups to assign to the EC2 instance. You can provide a single string of comma values containing the name of the Amazon security groups. So what I'll do is I'll go over to EC2. And we'll go down to security groups. And there actually might already be one here for Elastic Beanstalk. I'm not sure. I don't see one, but we'll create a new one. We'll call it study sync SG. And I'll add an inbound rule. And this one is going to be for HTTP. So I'll type in HTTP. And this will be from anywhere, IPv4. If it wants, we can do this for HTTP for IPv6 as well. Just cover our bases. We'll create that. We'll just say, we'll copy this and make this the same. And so now we have this. This is in CA Central 1. Make sure it's there. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to bring it back over to here. I'm going to paste it in. And now we have that configuration. So I'm hoping that that will set that there. So that's one part of it. The next part of it is that I want to have a database set up. And so I'm going to go back over to here. And what I need to do is provide the security group. So I'm going to go back over to here. I'm going to grab the security group ID. I'm going to go over to here. I'm going to replace it here instead. I don't really want to use a secret ARN. I don't care about that. I'm going to go ahead and delete this out. And I'm even going to delete this out as well. I'm just going to hard code them. I just don't care, as this is not something that needs to be super secure. And I'm going to go and look for the ARN, or the secret ARN here, and the username. We'll go down to username here. I'm going to say Postgres, and I'm going to say capital T, testing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, exclamation mark. And so that's what's going to be set. Obviously, if you're doing this, make it something random that you're going to be able to easily remember here. But that's what I'm setting here today. I'm going to go and cd into our RDS directory. And I mean, this seems fine. So we're going to go ahead and deploy this. And so now we will have our database, but it's saying it cannot resolve username, but I'm pretty sure I got rid of username. I don't want to output this down here, so I'll take that out. We'll try this again. We'll put deploy. And so now we will deploy this. This doesn't need to be internet accessible because this will be deployed in our VPC, but if it is, that's great. I'm going to go over to CloudFormation. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go ahead and accept the change sets, and we'll execute that. So now it's going to deploy this RDS instance. Once that's up, we will seed the data. Again, I'm just trying to rule things out, and so I'm assuming that we need that in place. And if we can establish a connection to our database, maybe via Cloud9, and then see the data, then we know that the other one should be in good shape. But we might have to add that to the security group once it's launched here, okay? All right, our database is created, and so now what I want to do is establish a connection to it. I don't know if this was set to be publicly accessible. It's set to false, which is fine, because we do have Cloud9 deployed in the same VPC. So what I'm going to do is go over to here. I'm going to go and find out what the security group is for this one. And it says that it is this one here. I'll click through to it. I'll grab this security group ID. I'm going to make my way over to RDS, and we'll click into this one. And we'll go to databases, and we'll click into it. And we'll go to configuration. And I should be able to find its security group here, somewhere here. Come on. I thought it'd be like a network tab. Here it is over here. And I know it's outside the scope of our CloudFormation, but I don't care. We'll just go ahead and hit inbound rules. We'll add this. We will place this one in here. And we'll say for Postgres. There we go. And so we'll say save this. I'm going to go back over to our Cloud9 environment. I don't know if we have the Postgres client installed. It'd be nice if we did. We don't. I'm just trying to think here. Amazon, Linux, 2023, Postgres client, install. So go here. Sudo yum Postgres client install. That's probably what it is. Yep, that looks like it. Let's go down here and just make sure that's the case. I mean, that installs the full version, which is silly. Well, let's just try it. Let's just try it. Even though they say it doesn't work, this was 11 months ago. I don't necessarily trust something 11 months ago. I'm going to paste that in, hit enter. No. So I guess we'll install the full version. I'm pretty sure we're using something newer than 13. But the thing is that whatever we have on 2023 is varying. This is 2022. So I'll do sudo yum Postgres. And what I want to see is maybe it'll just say something here. Okay. Amazon, Linux, 2023, Postgres. because there must be a newer version than that. So it's saying Postgres 15. So maybe we can just go back here and put in 15. So let's just say 15. Does that work? There we go. We'll say yes. And I'm going to type in PSQL here. Great. So now what I need to do is assemble a connection string. And so we know that our username is Postgres @ testing. I think it's like PostgreSQL like this, like that. And I need it's not @ here, it's colon. And then we'll need an @ sign. We'll go over to RDS, if you can find it here, RDS. And I need the endpoint URL here. So we'll click into that. We'll grab this endpoint over here. I'll paste it in. I'm going to put :5432. And then this is called, actually there isn't anything created yet. So, well, let me think about that. Because when we launched it up, it would have created a database. And maybe it's called my database, because I don't think we changed the default there. So I'm not really sure what it's called. We'll go back over to Gitpod over here. And the database is called what? No, it's called my database. Okay. So we have my database. So it says here, password authentication failed for Postgres. Oh, well, the password's wrong here. No wonder. It's supposed to be capital T testing 1 2 3 exclamation mark. So we'll say capital T testing 1 2 3 4 5 6 exclamation mark. I think that's what it was. And I'll try that again. I mean, we can just go back and take a look. If we go here and we go down here, because we hard coded it, right? Capital T testing 1 2 3. Yeah. So I'm not sure if the exclamation mark is throwing off, but I'm going to try again. RDS event not found. Connection string URL exclamation characters. How do you handle them? I don't even know. And I guess they're suggesting to do the equivalent there. So escape URL string. Maybe there's a program that can do that for us, and I'll just put an exclamation mark here in code, and it's going to be %21. Sorry. So we'll go back over to Cloud9 here, and what I'm going to do is try this again. So we'll say testing 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then it's percentage. What did they say? 24? Is that what it was? Percentage 21. Okay, because it has to be string safe, right? And so now we've got into the database. So this is our string. Okay, so this is what we want. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And I mean, obviously you don't want this, but I'm going to go ahead and just put it over here. Just say like connection string URL example. Cut this here, just in case you're looking for it as well. All right, so this is PSQL like that. So what we want to do is we want to run that script. We did that earlier here with these, right? Here they are. So I'm going to grab these two here, and I'm going to go back over to here, and I think I'm just going to hit Q here. I think that we can execute this by, I just need to put this anywhere. I'm going to go into the README here. Where's the README here? And it's not the same README, don't worry. This is just the one that's in the repo. So this is just kind of our scratch pad. It won't get saved anywhere. And so I'm thinking that maybe we can put our connection string URL in the end here, and it might work. So I'm going to try that. And we'll go back over to here, all the way down to the ground. You have yours. Obviously, don't commit this to your repo. It doesn't matter for me because like I'm going to delete this database, but do not commit this to your repo. your connection string URL, especially if your thing's still up there. So I want to go over to, back over to here. I'm going to paste this on the end here. So that's 1. I'm going to paste this on the end here. I'm just guessing. I don't know if you can do that this way. So we'll copy this. We'll try this. Enter. We have to be in the correct directory. So we'll go up 1. Well, hold on here. ls. Oh, these scripts aren't here. So what I'll do, I'll make a new folder here if I can. SQL. And now I need to download these 2 files. Download. And then I'm going to go back over to this environment. I'm going to upload files. And I will drag them on over here. Great. And so now they're over here. I'm going to cd out 1 level. I'm going to try this again. And it does not like my Postgres SQL string. I was hoping that it would work, but nope. So what I'll do is I'll just undo in this file here a bit, because that's not going to work. And so it's still Postgres. And so we need to replace this with what it wants, which is going to be, read me here, it wants just this part. Like that. So that's actually all we really need here. So I'm going to go back over to here. Wherever we were. And yeah, that's the host. But how does it know the database? PSQL import specify database. -d is the database. Okay, let's see if that works. -d. -d. Oh, I mean, we probably should write the database name, right? So it's called my database. My database. And then we have my database. So we have those 2 there. So I'm going to grab this line here, copy it, paste it on down below, hit enter. Extra line. Oh, the database is right here. Why the heck am I getting mixed up? So we'll take this out here. I forgot. My database. My database. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I'm going to go paste it in. Whoops, just stop this here. We'll paste this in again. Enter. And now it's asking for the password. Capital T testing 1 2 3 4 5 6 exclamation mark. Enter. So it's created the table. Excellent. We'll go paste in the second line. Paste it in. We'll hit enter. So this will be capital T testing 1 2 3 4 5 6 exclamation mark. Excellent. I'm going to copy these 2 here so you have them as an example back into the my Git pod here. Just paste it in here. Importing into RDS. All right, so the database is now provisioned. And so in theory, we should be able to launch up another environment. I'm curious if our other one was torn down, our environment. I still see this one as if it like refused to tear down. So I'm going to go over to here, back over to Beanstalk. I just want to see if there's still an environment running, and it refused to tear that down. And I don't see any environments here, so maybe that's just the app. Here, yeah. So I can go back here, check CloudFormation. And I mean, this suggests, I'm going to refresh this. This suggests that there's an instance here and an environment here. And that's not what I want to be here. And is this instance still running, or did I stop it? Oh, okay, so there is an environment running. But if we go back over to, again, to our environments, I don't see anything here. So what is it talking about? Because there's nothing here. So I don't really trust this one. I'm going to go ahead and tear this down. Yeah, just get on out of here. And what we're going to do for the millionth time, we're going to attempt to create an environment. And I have no idea why, but this, oh no. This was my Cloud9 environment. No, no, no. Oh no, I did not want to tear that down. I like really did not want to get rid of that. Okay, that's fine. We'll go over to Cloud9, we'll create a new environment. Whatever. Study, sync, Cloud9. I just was not paying attention. It's not that big of a deal, but I'm going to go ahead and launch up this new one, whatever. Because we've been committing this entire time, right? So, like, it's not like we've lost anything. And I mean, the only thing that I can think of that we could have lost is that configuration, but I'm pretty certain that we pushed it. So we'll go over to code commit. And I'll go over here. And I just want to check the repo. I just want to see if that configuration file is already in place. So if we go into the extensions here, we don't. So I'll have to create that extensions file again, which is annoying. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? That is so frustrating. I hate this lab. I hate it so much. It used to like take minutes. Like I'll show you, this is the old lab. Like it was like minutes. And we're like, and if you look over here while we're recording, we're like hour and a half in. There's nothing I can do about it. Like there's no easy way to do this. I'd have to run and do this lab like 100 times. I don't have time to do that. So the thing that sucks here is like I have to download this again. We go over to code commit and I guess grab the repo that way. You know the thing is like I'm gonna go and talk to the Elastic Beanstalk team and I'm gonna send them this video and be like, hey, make this thing not suck anymore because it used to be great, it used to be easy. But now it's like all this crazy work to do it. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab the HTTPS connection here. Oh man, it was like so easy. We had it all set up. Okay, so I'll grab this. And I'm hoping that I can just clone this and say like git clone. Please just clone. Please. Yeah, okay, it's cloning, good. And I'll cd into this, study sync. And I want to open up our extensions because we're going to need a new one here. We'll just make a new file. ASG launch config, rename. And I'll click into this. And we'll get our option settings. At least I'm getting good at this, eh? And I'll paste this in here. I think it's really similar. It's just that we'll go into global EB settings here. And I'm going to go down to launch configuration. We'll grab this here. We'll go on back. And I'm going to go ahead and paste this in. I'm going to change this to 2 spaces. We'll indent this. We need to change the security groups here. Security groups. And it wants the name security group. So we'll go here and do this. And we'll tab in. And then we'll go back over to EC2. And we'll go down to our security groups, which is here. And we will go ahead and find the security group that we created, called this one here. I don't know why it doesn't have a name. I hate that they have a security group name and then a separate name. I hate that. Just absolutely hate it. And we'll go back over to here. We'll paste that in. And so now, in theory, configure SG for EB. And I'll go ahead and I'll have to reconfigure this again. Andrew Brown. And we'll copy this. I'll paste it in. Andrew at exampro.co. Okay, we'll try to commit this again. Git push. Push that to code commit. Excellent. We'll do EB. Well, do we even have that installed though? We don't, do we? So I'll go back over to here and I'll scroll up and I'm just looking for this one line. We'll grab that. We'll hit enter and I'll wait for this to install. All right, so now that that's installed, I'm going to type in EB And we're in the study sync folder, and we'll say create single. I'll hit enter. I will say study sync prod. And I'll stick with the same one, and I'll say no here. And here it's suggesting we don't have sufficient privileges. I mean, we've created that role. Unable to determine if the instance profile exists. It does exist. And it appears to be going. So we'll let that run. But what I want to know is, did it pick up my configuration, the launch configuration? The way we can do that is go over to here, and we'll have to look at the resources. And so we have this launch configuration. If I click through to it, we'll be able to see based on that. See, it doesn't even want us to be able to see it in the UI. It's hiding it from us. Well, you know what, AWS? If you don't want us to use launch configurations, then you should remove it out of Elastic Beanstalk. And so what I'm looking for here is to see if it used it. And so it says this here. This does not look like the one that I specified. Yeah, so I go here. And maybe it is. Maybe it is. Hold on. Launch configurations. Oh, no, it is. Okay, but it has 2 of them. All right, that's fine. Hey, that works for me, because all we need to know is that this one is attached to our RDS instance, right? And we have one over here. I think this is it. Inbound rules. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it does. It has it there. And so now when this launches, we know that this can connect to the instance. We know that we've provisioned it. The only thing that we haven't set here, actually I didn't think about it, is we didn't set the database URL when we deployed this. So that's one thing that's missing. Okay, so the question is, how do we configure secrets? We'll go down to env YAML. So that's one thing that we did not configure. You include a YAML formatted file in your root application. This file includes support for environment groups. So the question is, like, I need to configure, and yeah, it looked like we could have set it down here as well, the env YAML. You configure YAML formatted environment manifesting your root app. So we didn't have to make an extension. But how can we pull in secrets? Okay, so let's just say secrets Elastic Beanstalk. And I mean, I guess that would be one way we could do it. We could just use the CLI here to grab it as such. All right. But for this to work, we'd have to do this. So, I mean, I guess we could do it this way. How old is this? 2020. There's no built-in solution if you want to do this in Elastic Beanstalk. However, a workaround solution is to use the platform hook. All right, so maybe we'd have to do that then, because otherwise this is not going to work. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and copy this. And yeah, I'm just carefully looking at this here for a second. It's not a built-in, however, it is relatively easy to create an extension. Okay, so I'll copy this here, and we'll go back over to our env file. And I want to paste this in here and take a look. Because normally there's post commands that you can run, and I know that we can do this because I've done it before. And so what I'm looking for here, we'll probably have it in the slides somewhere. I'm just going to open up my Elastic Beanstalk slides. Because somewhere in here, I know there's like, wait, this is container commands, but I'm just talking about regular commands. Execute commands on the EC2 instance before the app sets up. And so we just have the commands there, and they have command and EB. So I'm not really sure why that one is slightly different. Well, I mean, maybe that is a command. So see, this is a command that has the number there. So I'm thinking that's what it is. So I'm guessing here what we need is commands like this. And we could probably set this up in our env YAML file. Just give me a second, okay? So when we ran one of our boot camps, we built a custom LMS for it, and we ran it on Elastic Beanstalk. And so I didn't make it, Baco configured it. But I imagine in here that we might have an env YAML file, because I can't imagine that we wouldn't have post steps in here. But I'm not seeing anything here. So maybe what Baco did is he actually configured this to use a container, which it is. And we're not doing a container right now. So I'm thinking that I do have to configure an env YAML file. But I'm not exactly sure where we put the commands in there. So I'm going to go over and ask ChatGPT if we even have it open anymore here, ChatGPT. So we'll just say here, how do we run commands on EB in the env YAML file? So I'm going to need an example. And hopefully that will save us some time. You'll typically manage the environment configurations rather the direct commands in there. Oh, okay. So it really is just saying commands. All right, whatever. Okay, we'll just do that then. So I'll go over to here, back to wherever it was, here. And we'll go, no, Cloud9. And we'll go into here, and I'll make a new file. Again, we'll say touch, and it'll be EB extensions setup.config. And apparently we just take this here like this, cut. And it's literally saying we just place it like this here. Really? We don't have to put anything in front of it? I'm going to go back here and just take a look here. Commands, EB, extensions. I just don't have confidence that, like, I just really don't trust ChatGPT. No, it's saying that's what it is. Okay, well, if that's the case, then that should be fine. So here we have function get option settings namespace my-env. And the idea is that we have a bunch of stuff here. So I need to create a secret, which we know that we need. And we need to set a database URL, because that's how it's going to know how to connect to it. So I'm not sure why this is choning and changing things with Nginx HTTP PD, because I really don't want to do that. All I want to do is set the environment variable here for that. Anyway, let me just read this, okay? All right, so I don't know. This seems like very challenging, because even if we do pass this here, I'm not sure if it would actually pass it onto the running app. So even though this is not really the way that you should ever do it, our RDS instance is launched into a private VPC, and there's no way that anyone's going to have this. So we're just going to commit the connection string URL to it, because it's just way too hard. We'll be spending all day trying to figure this out. So yeah, I'm not advocating for this, but I don't really have any other options here. So I'm going to set the database URL here, and I'm just going to pass it in here. All right, so I believe that we had one here earlier. We're going to have to reassemble it again, which is annoying. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this. So I'm going to say copy. And I'm going to go back over to here. And this is going to be PostSQL // and this would be Postgres : capital T testing and 1 2 3 4 5 6, and it'd be %21 @. We need to paste this in here, and then we'll put my database, and this will be 5432. Now I'm not going to just assume that this is going to work, so I'm going to make sure by reinstalling Postgres. So we'll do that again where we did sudo yum install PostSQL 15. Hopefully that is the correct command. There we go. We'll say yes, because we really should test this before committing it, because it'll suck if this doesn't work. So I'll copy this. And again, if you're doing this for real, you really would not hard code this like this. This is such a bad idea. But it could add like literally 40 minutes to this lab, and that's just too far what we want to do here. So I'm trying to establish a connection here. The reason why this might not be working is because we have a new EC2 instance. So I have to go back over to here. I need to go back to our instance. I need to go into Cloud9. I need to go into our networking. I need to grab the security group for this, which is somewhere here. Maybe it's under security. So this is the security group we need. I'm going to grab its group ID. I'm going to go back to security groups. I'm going to go to RDS basic, which is here. And I'm going to go to the inbound rules. I'm going to edit the inbound rules. I'm going to take out one of these. I don't know which one it is, so I'll just add it again. There we go, Postgres. And so if we go back here, I'm going to hit up, try this again. Now it works. I'm going to just say select all from questions. There we go. So we just want to make sure that this works before we do it. I'm going to go back over to here. And I'm just going to type in %q. We'll say git add all, git commit, add database URL, even though you should never do this. The thing is that we end up tearing this down later on, so it should be less of an issue. So we'll say git push. And so that way, it'll have the connection string URL. I'm going to go back over to EC2 because I'm assuming that this never deployed and never worked. So we'll go to our prod and we'll grab the public IP address here. I'm going to go to any tab here, HTTPS, :// paste this in. Oh, and it's actually up. Okay, great. So, I mean, we don't have a database connection in there yet, but it does have permission to go there, but at least our app is in place. So the only thing we're missing is that database URL. So we have gone ahead and made a change. And so we do want this to deploy again. So maybe we can get into the actual deployment stuff, which is what I would like to do here. So I guess what we need to do is just a regular deploy. And there's a few ways that we can do that. So I'm just trying to decide how we want to do this deployment, okay? Because there's like immutable deploys, blue-green deploys. So what I'm thinking here, let me just think about it, okay? All right, so the thing is that we could hook this up to, I just looked up how we did it before. And so basically there's a configuration file that you would specify so that you know that it's immutable. And then the idea is that when we push, it would trigger more deploys. Now we did hook this up to code commit, so I'm also kind of wondering if it's already working. So if we go back over to EC2, Beanstalk, I wonder if it already triggered a deploy automatically because we go over here. Would this be triggering another deploy? And I don't know. Because the manual way we would do it is just upload the package here. But I suppose there would be like package versions or something here, application versions. And we can see application versions here. Configure SG for EB. And this is what it says it's currently deployed. So I don't think that this has automatically deployed. Applications, study sync. This one here. I'm not sure why it keeps complaining about this warning. I'm just going to keep ignoring it. It says the environment has transitioned from pending to warning, initialization in progress. There are no instances unable to assume the role. I mean, the role is there, so it's absolutely something that it can assume. And it's showing that it is healthy, so I'm not sure what it is talking about. It's not making any sense. But anyway, what I'm trying to figure out is if we push, does it deploy automatically? And I don't think so. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, we'll go over to applications here. Study stink. Oops. Applications, study sync, application versions, config SG for this. I mean, it's probably the time that we deploy. Now there is a deploy command, so maybe that's what we'll do. Let's just take a look here. So I'll type in EB. And for the confusion, it's just like Elastic Beanstalk had different CLI commands. It used to be like very few here. Now it's completely different. Deploy your source code to the environment. So we'll go ahead and say EB deploy because we did make a change. And it's saying cannot find prod. That's because it's not called prod anymore. We definitely call it something else now. So if I open this up into our config YAML, what does it say? It says environment is prod. It's definitely not called that. It's called study sync. Study sync prod. So we'll go ahead and try this again. And I mean, even our environment's called study sync prod like this, right? So go ahead and do this. So maybe it's just confused because when we created it again, it didn't reinitialize this stuff. And so maybe we should have deleted the Elastic Beanstalk config.yaml file. I mean, it didn't tell us to do that, but clearly that is some of the side effects of it. And so I'm thinking what it's doing, it's going to push a version. So if we'll go back over to here and refresh. And yes, now it has. Okay, great. So yeah, obviously there's been some changes with Elastic Beanstalk. So now that that version has been pushed, I'm going to assume that it's going to attempt to deploy. So we'll just wait for that to finish. So it looks like our new environment may have been deployed. We'll go ahead and refresh here. And so maybe our app will just work. It'd be really nice if it did. So I think it's deployed a new version. I guess the question is, would it have the same IP? Because it should be Elastic IP, right? So I'm going to go over here to EC2. And we'll go to instances. And I will check this here. 392, 183, 72. Yeah, it's the same one. Let's go inspect this and see what we get. Go to network tab. We'll refresh here. And we'll look at where questions is going. So it's going to this address, which is fine. And it's not returning anything. It's almost like it's timing out, because if this is here and nothing's happening, like right away, if it failed, it would just say like, hey, something didn't work. And so it makes me think that the database URL is our issue. I think we need to get into this instance. And so because we added Sessions Manager, we can do that. Now there is a command like EBSSH. I'm not doing that. I don't like to get in that way. Use Sessions Manager. That's the better way to get in there. I'm going to assume that this is deployed on AWS, like an Amazon Linux instance. I really don't know. So say sudo su -ec2 user. I'm hoping that's the case. It seems like it is. pwd, where am I? And we'll cd into this directory here. We'll say ls. I'm in the root ls. And I'm not exactly sure where this would be deployed. So where does EB deploy these Node.js apps on EC2 instance? Because that's what we're looking for here. And we'll go back here. And it says, and I was thinking var. That's the first thing I was thinking was var. I don't think I saw that here. Is there a, yeah, there is. Okay, so var, or sorry, I meant, I think I was thinking there would be like an app at the root directory. cd www. No. Var app. Okay, app. ls, cd app. Current, there we go. And so the idea is that the application's here. But the thing is, like, how would we know about its logging, right? So if something was wrong, we'd want to observe where the logs go. And so that's where I don't know where that would be. So Elastic Beanstalk, Node.js, logs where. And it would say var log Node.js logs. Oh, well, I hope that's the case. That'd be nice. So we'll go back over to here to wherever we were SSH'd into. If I can find it somewhere here. There we go. And I already forgot where we have to go. So var log Node.js. Let's hope that's the case. Var log Node.js. ls -la. Is there a Node.js? I don't see one here. How old is this? 2020. You can see a few different log files. So I believe the logs you write using log4j.s and Node.js will be under here. Oh, like if we utilized it, but we're not using that. We're just doing regular logging with Express.js. And that's not helping. I want to know where the logs are. Logs. Because if we can't see the logs, we're not going to know what's going on here. Logs, logs, logs. Give me the logs. Okay. I mean, we can try and see if it will bring us back logs. I don't think it will, but I'll go over to Beanstalk. Like every time I've ever used Beanstalk and I use that stupid log feature, I've never seen logs in it ever in my life. But we'll go ahead and try it, even though I don't trust it. And we'll go over to here. We'll go into this one, even though it is working totally fine. We'll go to logs. We'll request logs and we'll say last 100 lines. We'll download it. This is like the first time I've ever seen logs in my life. Okay, great. It actually tells us where these logs are. You know what? I'm thinking about it. There's probably a tool. I can't remember what it's called, but maybe it's like journal, like the journal CTL or something, but maybe it's getting all logs from here. But we can see that it's running Nginx, so that is a good indicator of stuff. There is error log down below here. This is Nginx, but says get request questions host error 20 upstream, so it's timing out. And we don't know why it's timing out. But again, I would think this would have to do something with establishing a connection to Postgres. And so if the database URL was not configured correctly, that could be an issue. Let's go over to our application and take a look at what we called it, because I'm pretty certain it's called database URL. So if we go into our index.js and we look for the connection string, it's called database URL. If we go over to our nvars, this is called database URL. And we tested this to make sure it works, so it absolutely does work. So my other thought is that it has to be the security group, even though we definitely have set that there. So what I'm going to do is look for the running EC2 instance, and I want to see which security group it has. So we'll go here, and we'll choose our prod, and we'll go over to security. And the security group is this one here. It actually has two attached. So I'll go to this one because this is the one that we care about. I'm going to grab the security group ID. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to look for this RDS instance, which is here. I'm going to drag this on up. I'm going to edit the rules. I'm going to first search, and it's right here. So there's no way that it does not have a connection to it. Okay? Now what we could do, I don't know if Postgres is installed here, is it? Well, wouldn't the instance need Postgres installed for this to work? Because if Postgres isn't here, how would it establish a connection? Well, maybe it wouldn't need it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do sudo yum install. And we're going to type in PostgreSQL, was it 15? And we're just going to install it here. I'm going to say yes. Because if we can establish a connection from this instance, then we know that that's not the problem. So go ahead and paste it in here. Well, at least we know that it can get a connection from here. So I'll go back over to here, and I'll grab this here. We'll copy that, and we'll rule this out, and we'll hit enter. We're now connected to our database. So we know that that's not the problem. The EC2 instance, security groups, has access to Postgres. If it's not working, then what it makes me think is that that database URL is not set within the application. It's not being passed to it. which is confusing because we definitely set it there. Okay, so what can we do? I guess the question is like, if we change the environment variable, would it launch a new EC2 instance or did it do an in-place deployment? And that's something I'm not sure whether it did. And so maybe immutable deploys is what we want to look into. So just give me a second here, okay? So the thing is, I want this to do an immutable deploy because the thing is we want the instance to be replaced, right? We want there to be a new instance because I'm just not confident those environment variables are going to get replaced. I wanted to show you how to do immutable deployments anyway. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and configure that. So I'm going to go back into our environment here, and I'm going to make another file. I'm going to call this one mkdir. I'm going to call this one 000 deploy.config. Sorry, we'll do EB extension, 000 deploy.config. And in here, that's a folder. I want a file. We'll delete this here, and I'll go ahead and hit up. And I meant to say touch. Okay, so touch. And what we'll want here, I just have the code here. You'll have to write it out. I'm sorry. Or you can get it from the repo later on when I bring it over here. But what we're setting is this to be immutable. And the idea is that then it will always replace the instance on deploy. So I'm going to go say git add all, git commit -m, add immutable deploys. And I'm going to go ahead and say git push. And then I'm going to do EB deploy. And so hopefully this will resolve our issue. So we'll wait for this to deploy and hopefully it works, okay? One way we'll know that if this works is if it replaces the EC2 instance. So what I'm going to do is just grab this instance ID because this should get replaced. I'm just going to throw this into our README for now. And that way we'll know if this actually worked, okay? So yeah, I'm not exactly sure how this is going to work, but we'll go over to here. All right, so we'll look at the EC2 instances. And if we go over to here, the idea is that the other one is supposed to replace the other one. They look like the same. I can't tell which is which. Luckily, we have saved the other one here. So go ahead and copy this. And we'll go over to here. So it's just waiting for the ASG to say that it's healthy. So if we go over to here, we have two autoscaling groups. Which is which, I don't know. Well, this one says autoscaling group immutable stack, and that's the old one. So we'll go over to here. I'm not sure what happens when you switch to an immutable one. I'm not sure how we would know what is going on. But clearly that one is healthy and the other one is healthy. So is it confused? And it does say there's a problem with setup.config though, which is not good. I didn't notice that till now. Oh, but we're not even using this. This shouldn't even be in here. So now I have no idea what the state of our stuff is. Also, when we switch over to immutable deploy, it looks like it created a new autoscaling group. So I'm not sure how it would reconcile those two. So what I'm going to do, because it seems like it's all messed up again. Again, I do not like Elastic Beanstalk. I'm going to go ahead and tear down this stack. And now we actually have two stacks. We have an immutable stack and we have this stack. So we couldn't just easily switch it over as we thought we could. And so we'll delete both stacks and then we will try to create a new stack again. One of our stacks failed to delete. I'm not sure why. I'm going to go attempt it again. And it's the issue with the autoscaling group. I'm going to go ahead and ignore it. And then I'm going to go over to autoscaling groups manually. And then we'll go ahead and tear that down because it's just not listening to us. So if we go over to our, that's not what I want. We'll go over to EC2 here. And then we'll go all the way down to autoscaling groups. And I'll go ahead and just terminate this manually. So we'll say delete. And then this one should now delete. There we go. Okay, and so now we'll just have to wait for that to completely delete, and then we will proceed forward and get everything hooked up again, okay? All right, so both of those have been deleted. I'm going to go back over to here, and we're going to attempt another deploy. So I'm thinking that maybe because that other one was configured incorrectly, it could have messed up the other one, and maybe they did not propagate properly, but I think that we will attempt another deploy here. We don't necessarily have to create an environment. I think that if there wasn't one, that it might spin up one from it. So hopefully EB deploy will automatically create one as we've already initialized stuff. Seems to be working. So we'll go back over to here. We'll go over to Beanstalk. And yeah, we can see we already have a new one here. If we go to applications, I'm not sure if it would show all the versions here. I mean, it still does. I suppose that could be maintained separately. We'll go back over to here, and it is deploying a new one. And here it's saying that it's failing to deploy because the stack doesn't exist. Well, I mean, yes, of course the stack doesn't exist because we deleted it. So if we go back over to here. All right, fair enough. So we'll go ahead and we'll say create single again. And we'll say study sync prod. And I guess we'll have to do prod 2 here, which is fine. No. But you can see there's like a lot of inconsistencies between like the configuration stuff. I suppose, again, I could delete the configuration. I just don't want to have to refill all this stuff in again. So hopefully this time it works. Says there's already an environment with that name. Okay. But I thought we got rid of those environments. I can go over to CloudFormation here. Let's go back here. And we have this failed delete over here for which? Okay, I'm going to delete this again. Instance security group. Okay, we'll try this again. Maybe the environment's still hanging around here. I thought we got rid of it. Oh, that's Cloud9. But then we have that one up here. Cloud9 study sync environment. Okay, so maybe it didn't delete our old environment. It was still around there. Okay, that's fine. That's not a problem. But let's go over into Beanstalk, because there seems to be like a lot of confusion around this one. Because I thought that it would delete the environments when we delete the CloudFormation, but it doesn't seem like that stuff gets managed. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and delete this environment if possible. Terminate. What a pain this is. We'll go ahead and try this. Terminate. And then we'll go to applications. I'm going to go ahead and delete this application. But we have to wait for this to finish terminating, so we'll wait for that, okay? All right, let's see if that environment terminated. So it looks like it has. So I'm going to go over to applications, and I'm just going to do my best to clean this up so I don't have any more problems. We'll go ahead and delete this. So, or maybe call it study sync here, study sync, and we'll delete it. And so now it should be totally gone. And so these other environments shouldn't be here. Now it's weird, I can click into this and see this environment still here. Let's go ahead and I don't want this environment. It's frustrating. So I'm going to go back over to here. And I guess what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to call this environment study sync prod environment 3, because this is the only way I'm going to get around this. Sorry. And we're going to go ahead and say EB create single. And so this will be study sync prod 3. And we'll keep it the same here. And we'll say no. And it's still talking about insufficient IAM privileges, even though we know we've created that and we've done stuff for that. And so now we have to wait for this to create stuff. So we're going to wait for this, okay? All right, so, I mean, it's still provisioning, but I'm going to go ahead and take a look at this IP address. It says it's deployed. So if we go here and say HTTP t:// and we go here, we see the app. Still, we don't have a connection. This is kind of driving me crazy to the actual database, which is, you know, again, key to what we want to do. We'll refresh this, and so this just pens, and it just hangs. So it clearly isn't working. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure as to why it's failing. I guess we'd have to go back into the EC2 instance and take a look here. And I'm going to go into here. I'm going to go ahead and check this. I'm going to connect to it. I'm going to connect to it. We're going to go ahead and wait for this to work here. We'll go and type in EC2. Whatever loads. Come on. Let me in. You can tell I want to be done this lab. We've just been going on forever here. And this is timing out as well. So I'm going to go back here and select this again. We'll connect it again and go to connect. And we'll say EC2 sudo su hyphen EC2 user. And I'm going to type in ls pwd. So what I want to do here is I want to go take a look at var logs. Oh, you know what? Last time we checked the logs, we actually checked them in Beanstalk. It was like the first time I ever got logs back. So maybe we'll go ahead and check that again here. So if we go here and we go to our logs and we go to request logs and we say last 100 lines, we'll wait for that to download, which shouldn't take too long, and then we'll download this and we'll take a look here. So what do we have here? Error logs here, connection timeout when reading response header from upstream, but it doesn't say as to why. And then over here, we don't have any other problems. Up here, it's telling us that it's connecting to the port, and this is the standard ST out. Oh, up here, it says failed to connect to the Postgres database, 127.001.5432. So that indicates to me that it's not picking up the database URL. And we do have some logs here, so we could add some logs to see what is happening. So I'm going to go over to our index.js and yeah, so we have that there, but if we go up to here for a second, we should be able to console this out as well. So I'm going to grab this and then go all the way down to the ground. And we'll say console log this, and so the idea is that we want this to get passed along to here. The other thing is that is it even starting on the port that we told it to start on, 8081? So if we go back to wherever those logs were here, this is starting on which port? Port 8081. So it definitely is using the one that we configured. But why is it not utilizing the database URL? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead back over to here, and we're going to say git add all git commit -m extra logging, and okay, so there git push, and then we'll say after that's done we'll say git or eb deploy. All right. And so we'll deploy that and we'll wait for that to finish. Because it's an immutable deploy, it'll always replace the instance. And so we'll wait for that. All right, so that deploy is complete. So I don't expect it to work, but I expect that we can check the logs and see what's going on. So if we go back over to here and give this a hard refresh, I think that was the one we were running, right? Now I don't know. Because those are two different Elastic IP addresses. So I'm going to go back over to Cloud9. And I mean, we had the IP here just a moment ago. So this is the correct one, right? So we'll do this. HTTP. And that's fine. It doesn't work. I'm just going to hit this a few times. And we'll go back over to our Cloud9 environment. Click into here, we'll go to the logs, we'll say the last 100 lines must be in a ready state. What are you talking about? It is ready. It already said that it was ready. There we go. Maybe that was the one that I ran right now, 1756. I mean, this doesn't seem like the one that I just ran here, so I don't necessarily trust it. I think this is the last one. I don't think this is the new one. So I'm going to go ahead and request logs. Study state is in a valid state for this operation must be in a ready state. Okay, but this has never said anything else other than warning. So what am I supposed to do here? Let's go back to the environment. How would I ever know if it's in a ready state or not? You junk service. I hate this service so much. So we'll try this again. Waiting for requested logs. Come on. And we just can't get another log. And I don't know how to get out of this warning state. And nobody else seems to know either. And it says everything's okay. So like, what is going on here? What is going on, AWS? Fix this service, please. It's miserable teaching this. Okay, you know what? I think we're done here. We did a lot in Elastic Beanstalk. I'll keep up the older videos. So like I have these ones here. And these ones are okay. Like they literally show you how it used to work. And I think there's value to see those other deployment methods. But this is so hard to work with. I don't even want to teach it. And it's clear that AWS is not maintaining the service. So maybe in the future, they'll probably get rid of the service because it's still using launch configurations. And those aren't even around anymore. So I guess we'll consider this done. We definitely learned how to deploy it. And you can see why you should never use Elastic Beanstalk because it's a garbage service. But I will see you in the next one after we tear everything down, which is now the other nightmare to this whole thing. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll go over to CloudFormation. And I'm going to go ahead and tear this stupid stack down. We'll delete this. And I have no idea why there's two of them, but I don't care. We'll go ahead and delete this as well. And we'll go over to Cloud9. And we'll shut that down. Here, we'll tear that down, delete. And we'll go over to CloudFormation. And we'll go ahead and we'll tear that down as well. And whatever I have in my Git pod, I'm going to save that. Commit it. And we'll wait for this to tear down. But yeah, some services are just not worth your time. Sometimes they were great before and now they're not. But you know, for the exam, they just want you to know this stuff. And again, in the older videos, I showed all the deployment methods, like even for containers and everything else. But I don't think they'll ask you that on the exam. So I'm not really worried about it, but I'll keep the older videos around because the UI is very, very similar. I went through these and I was almost tempted just to ship the older ones, but I realized that the AWS CLI had changed and there was a few other changes that, the Elastic Beanstalk CLI had changed. But if you try to do those ones, you'll have a very hard time working through them. But yeah, once this is all confirmed and deleted, we'll consider this done, okay? All right, so these did not successfully tear down. I do not know why. We'll delete it. It doesn't want to delete the auto-scaling group, whatever. We'll try this one. Doesn't want to delete the auto-scaling group. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and tear those down manually. Let's clean up this terrible, terrible mess. And we'll go over to auto-scaling groups here, and we'll check both of them, and we'll say delete, and we'll say delete the two. I want to make sure that I don't have an Elastic IP still running. I'm going to go over to here, and we'll give this a refresh. So there's nothing there, so that's totally fine. And we'll just continue on and wait for things to tear down here. Okay. All right, let's see if all that stuff was teared down. And it looks like it has. I think we've cleaned up everything. And yeah, I mean, that is that. And, you know, again, I say that if something is not easy to use and it's this much friction and it's supposed to be a convenience tool, then it's not worth our time because it's supposed to be a platform as a service. And I don't know, AWS just really needs to put more love into this particular service, Elastic Beanstalk. But I'll see you in the next one, okay? Ciao.